Hello, I'm not sure what I'm gonna title this video yet, but basically I just wanted to show you guys some of the interesting inner workings of like any old Office fan that you'll find. Essentially what happened was um, I was in this old office space and they were throwing out a bunch of things, so I decided why not check and see what they got. Let's see if I can get any parts for things. So what I ended up finding was that they had this old office fan. I was like, there's got to be a pretty good motor inside. Let me figure out how to disassemble this thing. So that's exactly what I did. Essentially, I did disassemble it, and this is the part where the fan was. Inside here, this was like some kind of, this is what was spinning, but I disassembled all this stuff, and there was also, so that was basically just the propeller, whatever you call it, that was spinning on it. And then over here, this was the shell that the motor was in, and the motor itself is over here. So this is the motor that I've been using. Well, not that I've been using, but that I removed from it. So it's actually, it's quite interesting how this works, and I learned a lot about how this actual machine works. So the most interesting part by far, I would say, was this little piece right here. This is the gearbox. Okay, so essentially how this thing works is, if you think about a fan, okay, let's say you have a fan, right, and it's turning. There is only one motor in the fan, which is this motor. They don't want to have to buy a separate motor. So what they're going to do is, while it's spinning, they're going to use a gearbox to also turn it this way. So it basically translates that motion into a perpendicular direction. So here, I'm going to show you how the motor works. So basically, there was the switch on it. This had several settings. I'm going to put it on 3, which was the highest setting. So now you can see the motor spinning. So you'll see there's this, the shaft of the rotor right here. There was this back, which looks sort of like a worm gear if you're actually looking at it. And the front of it is just that was the part that was actually spinning the propeller on it. So basically, if you look at this worm gear, this is what was going into the gearbox, and then the gearbox was moving it. So here, I'll show you a bit about, let me just turn this off real quick. So here's the gearbox. So if you look back here, this is where the worm gear was being put in, and it basically, that's where the worm gear was. So the to and fro motion from this motor was being converted into the rotational motion on this gearbox. So the gearbox in the back, there was it was greased up a bit so that you could, so that there wouldn't be any, they don't want this thing to stop operating. And then this shaft over here, well, once that worm gear turned this really big gear, which turned this small gear, and that is how it was able to, as this one did a lot of revolutions, the smaller gear did less revolutions. So even though this was spinning really fast with the fan, this was spinning really slow. So I just thought it was quite interesting to see this specific piece. It's quite interesting how gearboxes work, especially in office fans. So anything else? Let me take a look. So something else that I thought was pretty cool was when I first turned on, if you ever used a fan, when you turn on the fan, it's spinning a lot, and then, but it takes a while for it to reach the speed that you want. And then when you turn it off, it takes a while for the fan to stop spinning. So what I found interesting was when I was using this fan before I removed the motor from it, the fan would continue to spin 10 seconds after the motor was turned off. And that had actually to do with the fact that its radius was so big, so it had a high moment of inertia. So if you take a look, this motor now, I turn it on, and it automatically reaches that frequency. There it is. It's on already. And now I'm going to put it here. Watch it spin here. And watch, I'm going to turn it off, and you're going to see it's basically almost instantaneous. That's it. Whereas the fan, it would be 10 seconds. Or if you think about a ceiling fan, when you turn it off, it keeps spinning. So that I found really, really interesting. that the moment of inertia affected it that much. So I'd recommend, if you have any fans, office fans, this motor, the one that was specifically in here was 120 volts. I think it was 40 watt. 40 watts, 45 watts, 60 hertz for the frequency. So that it's pretty fast. It's doing a lot of revolutions per second. Yeah, I'd highly recommend. I'm not sure what I'm gonna use this for yet. I'm thinking about using it for some kind of thing like a centrifugal pump. I thought would be an interesting project. Or I was even considering using it for the system I'm thinking about, where a laser is gonna track where my boat goes. I'm gonna think about what I'm gonna use it for. But I'd recommend, if you're looking for motors, it's a great idea and it's a great practice to do the reverse engineering of it. And I find it quite interesting to be able to, really see the inner workings of it.